Oh, tanto capisci. Ma mi è stato sempre da fissato da niente oggi in questo meno capito. Dove non c'è quello che c'erano più non mai
You're good to go, Christian.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And welcome everybody to this ECI Bike Share Expert Group webinar, first of 2026, the future of bike sharing in Europe, as we welcome some of the last attendees into the room. We'd like to start with an introduction of the panel that we have here today in order to give us an overview of what we do at the Bike Share Expert Group and why it's so important for Europe. First, we have from Lyft Urban Solutions, Alessia Di Maio. Hello, Alessia.
Hello, hello.
Then from Coltra, based out of Barcelona, we have Camille. Hi, Camille.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Then from Half Consult, with great trajectory in bike share, we have Nick Brown. Hi, Nick.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Christian.
Good to see you. From Next Bike, we have John Alexander.
Hi, Craig. Hi, Christian. Hi, everyone.
How are you doing?
All good. Thanks.
Very good. And from ECI, we have the recently appointed CEO, Paul Walsh. Hello, Paul.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Christian.
Good to have you here. Good. All right. Seems like we have reached a quorum in the attendees. So how about we kick this webinar off? Right. This webinar in a nutshell is aimed at explaining a little bit what we do at the Bike Share Expert Group and what we are doing in terms of advocacy, especially towards European institutions. I'd just like to briefly say a history of the group. We were part of Cycling Industries Europe, basically founded in the Velo City of Dublin, 2019, 18, 19. So we've been around for quite a few years now, gathering some experience. And recently we've also joined, basically we're under the wing of ECI now, which is why we have Paul here to give us an idea of why that matters and how that has changed our perspective. But overall, our mission hasn't changed. The idea is to put bike sharing at the forefront of European institutions and have it cascade down to regions and cities as well. And basically, so that you have an idea, right now, the car advocacy industry, the automobile industry, is basically winning 75 against 1 in every penny that is spent in Brussels in terms of advocacy. So you can see why it's important to get started with not just grassroots movements, but actually an organized industry association, which is what we're aiming at here. A little bit of our Hall of Fame. We have managed in the last 2 years to get bike sharing into the EU's urban mobility framework. In 2020, late 2024, we got mentioned 6 times in the EU Declaration on Cycling, making bike share recognized for the very first time in the modal shift of Europe towards cycling. We have included bike sharing in the Social Climate Fund of the EU as well, and in the Accelerate EU communication very recently. So slowly but surely, our actions are having an effect in Brussels, and we're quite proud of it. And in terms of the more practical output that you can actually go through and read, we have produced 5 specific activities that are some of them are almost becoming a tradition. The first one is the benchmarking cities, where we rank cities in Europe according to different KPIs. Depending on population of cities, we compare that to the amount of trips that they're having, for example, in bike share, or the volume of the fleet, and different points of view within the study. And instead of basically benchmarking the operators, which is what we're used to, we do the opposite. So we also put the cities a little bit in the spotlight. So those are the case studies that we have had in 2023 and 2024. We carry out webinars as well, which is the first one of the year we're doing right now. But we have specialists that deep dive into specific areas of bike sharing, for example, the operations, the software, the hardware, the relationship with the cities. We always have a specific dedicated slot at Velocity, which is the large European Cyclist Federation gathering that happens basically in June every year, and it's happening next week in Rimini. We have also produced the first of its kind ROI study of bike sharing. How much of a return do you get for every euro invested in bike share? And then the Cycling Counts project. So basically bike share indicators in the EU's baseline cycling data document using ECI's benchmarking methodology. So proud output from the group. We are quite prolific, and it's always it's work that takes time, but that has its impact, as we've seen over time. Good. And just in a nutshell, we deliver advocacy and representation towards the European Union. We do engage with institutions. We collaborate among competitors. So this industry collaboration, we look a little bit beyond what separates us, and we actually think about how we can set the stage for a better city mobility scene in Europe. Of course, we also carry out research and thought leadership. We want to create real data that cities can use, and regions as well, that is not just owned by big consultancies, but that the industry can do itself. We do bring the visibility of the industry through marketing events and other communication events like the webinars that we do. And of course, industry insights like the manuals that have been presenting the ROI study and the benchmarking study are 2 examples of it. And with that said, I would like to introduce Paul, because recently we have had a merger with Conneby, which was another cycling association that we thought would work stronger together with us. We changed the name then of Conneby and CIE, became European Cyclist Industries. And we have a CEO since early this year. And the Bike Share Expert Group is basically completely back at full speed right now. So Paul, if you want to just give us a brief overview of what is new at ECI.
Yeah, thanks very much, Christian. And I think that's absolutely the message that we want to get across. The bike sharing group is back at full speed. And I think ECI now, after 6 months of going through this integration of two associations, is also at full speed with a bit of momentum behind us. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a moment. But how did we get here? Yes, there were two strong associations in Brussels. One, CIE, which I'm sure many of you were familiar with, which was based on the understanding that you have a piece of technology, the bicycle, that has been around for more than 100 years. But if you link it with all of the innovations on the services side, all of the innovations in bike share, bike leasing, software, you can really create a strong and dynamic movement and an association. So Kevin Main, of course, the driving force there, really helped to get us to the stage where we got the European declaration on cycling along with a series of other milestones. And then on the other hand, you have Coneby, which dated back to 90, which was extremely strong on the technical and regulatory side and had a really strong footprint in Brussels. But of course, two associations is not what policy makers want. Having to have two meetings with maybe slightly different positions was just clear inefficiency. And so it just took leaders within the association to really bring those two together. I was extremely fortunate to join CIE back in May 2025 when most of the work was done, and then we were able to just keep that going and successfully launch the new association in January. Now, this all happened at a time when the wind had swung a little bit against cycling, not because anybody really has an issue with cycling, but just because there were so many other preoccupations. One big important preoccupation was to preserve the car industry, and that's still there now. And so we were up against it from the beginning, putting this association together, big challenges ahead. Now, what we've seen due to geopolitical events is that at a political level, the momentum is turning a little bit in our favor, because let's face it, there aren't many other transport sectors and transport associations that really have the opportunity to promote the type of societal benefits that we do, the type of what economists would call externalities. When you look at the rising fuel costs, you look at just the mission that businesses, that people in Europe have control of their energy future, we can really play a big role in this. And so we want to make sure that we respond to that, we take advantage of that. And so we're launching a couple of campaigns now. I Cycle to Work, for instance, with lots of videos with MEPs. We have one of our team members actually cycling to different manufacturing plants in Europe to promote the industry. There's a lot that we need to take advantage of. And Christian touched on this a little bit at the beginning. Bike share is to the forefront of this. The big moment here in the past couple of months was Accelerate EU. And again, bike share is recommended to member states as a way to help deal with rising energy costs. Now, there's one component about this that I really need to touch upon. And the example is the recent Belgian cycling strategy, where they talk about getting a modal shift to 30% in a couple of years. But they can only make that argument by demonstrating that there's an economic argument behind promoting cycling. And so they have quite interesting plans about developing a cycling cluster, building up cycling jobs, and so on. You're only able to sell positive developments about infrastructure and cycling if you really have the economic component with you now. And that's how I see our role at ECI, to show that for every euro that you invest in cycling infrastructure, in bike share, that you're also contributing to a growing and dynamic European industry. And so our industry strategy is a huge part of what we do. And that's combined with an emphasis on 4 other priorities: infrastructure, leasing, better data for the industry and better data for policy, and just making sure that we have a very clear definition and we have legal certainty around the definition of what an e-bike is. So those 4 plus the industry strategy, that's our 5 priorities. I feel like the whole membership is very bought into them now, and we are already making progress. So you see as well, leasing is a good example. we have an amendment now to make sure that bicycles are considered as part of a regulation around making corporate fleets greener. So there are corporate bikes as well as corporate cars, and so Laura and the team have really pushed for that, and so we see positive momentum there, and I see really positive momentum for bike sharing as well. From what I can see, an extremely dynamic part of our association, and something that we want to grow, develop, embrace, and build the connections with the manufacturers in our association, with the other companies in our association. And so just very happy that you have the facts and figures to really back this up. These are what we use. I think that Nick will be coming on to those in a moment. So very happy to be here. It's an exciting time now for the sector, and so we're here to promote bike share as much as we can.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. And now just a brief explanation of where the Bike Share Expert Group sits within the wider organization of ECI. ECI has several expert groups working on the different topics that Paul just mentioned here. For example, the e-bike policies and 9 other expert groups specifically. They're built into commissions of industry and product advocacy, and they are all within the umbrella of the board, which Nick and I are also parts of. So just before we move on into the rest of the webinar, we will just deep dive a little bit into the ROI study and see what's next for bike share. Paul, if anybody here wants to join the ECI, join this group as well, they just have to message you or Istvan. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're engaging with about 10 different companies every week in manufacturing, bike share, and so on. I think that the fact we had 2 associations was a little bit of a barrier. People didn't know who to join, which association to join. So we're keen to engage as much as possible now. So if you'd like to talk about what membership involves, we're very open for that.
Yeah. There are some questions out in the audience as well. If you're not part of the EU, can you join as well?
Yep, we are representing at EU level, but we have a membership base that's made up of international companies, so no restrictions there. Very open.
Great. All right. So Mark Strong, you know where to find us, and the rest of you keep commenting as well. It's good to see the networking happening offline as well. So that's also why a webinar is always useful. So without further ado, let's go into the first block of questions. We're going to have 2 blocks. One where we're going to ask why is the Bike Share Expert Group good for you to these 4 companies. And then we're going to ask what's next in Bike Share. And we're going to finish off this webinar with a little Q&A. So you can also start writing down your questions for the last bit of the webinar. So Nick, why is the Bike Share Expert Group so important for you?
Thanks, Christian. Thanks, everybody. I was at the project lead for the return on investment in bike share study that was commissioned by European Cycle Industries and EIT Urban Mobility. And this study was only made possible because we came together as the industry and with partners in EIT Urban Mobility. And the results of the study speak for themselves and the interest it's generated. The study itself, the project began with a simple frustration that for years, a lot of us in cycling, we speak passionately about the health, the environmental and the social benefits of cycling. We talk about cycling being cleaner and greener and healthier. Unfortunately, it's just anecdotes, and our passion that alone rarely secures investment. It's difficult just to sell passion to people who don't share our passion for cycling. But what we do know is people are passionate about money when you're talking in policy making terms. So if we could show that bike share delivers real financial returns by quantifying the social and the environmental and the health benefits, we're speaking the language of the politicians and investors and decision makers. And that's what this study set out to do. It actually translates these benefits of cycling, starting with bike share, into financial terms. And it was a very big study. We commissioned EY, one of the world's leading accountancy and economics consultancies, because if we wanted the study to carry weight, it had to be backed by independent economists and robust methodology. And EY would not put their names to a report unless it was supported by credible evidence. And so again, together as the ECI members, we were able to gather operational data from more than 30 European cities. We looked at modal shift, trip distances, bike types, and user behaviours. And this enabled EY to model the socioeconomic value generated by the bike share systems across Europe. And what they found was actually quite remarkable, as you'll see from the slide. Bike share today, or I'll say today, sorry, it's still on the previous slide, it was skipping ahead there. It's fine. It generates today 305 million euros annually of societal benefit across Europe. That's not revenue, that's not fares, that's societal value. And importantly, public investment in bike share is already generating a positive return. It's already generating a 10% return on investment. And so this is showing this is not just a transport service, it's a health intervention, it's an environmental intervention, and increasingly it's an economic development tool. And now for the first time, we've got real robust evidence demonstrating that bike share demonstrates measurable value for society. So if you want to, sorry, if you want to go on to the next slide, we can show how that 305 million is made up. So we looked at the different benefits that cycling and bike share can bring, and the results are speaking for themselves. 46,000 tons of greenhouse gases emissions are avoided every year. Carbon is traded on the financial markets, so it was actually very easy to model the value of those savings. 1,000 chronic diseases avoided through increased physical activity, so that's a saving to the healthcare system. 758,000 hours of productivity gained because people spend less time in congestion, i.e. you're not sat in a car, you're on a bicycle. Another quite revealing statistic, a figure that came out of this, 6,000 full-time jobs created just from the bike share system across Europe. One of our French colleagues pointed out that 6,000 jobs a year, putting that into perspective, that you can build 5 to 6 Eiffel Towers every year with that number of people. The point we're making is these are not abstract statistics. These are real economic benefits now, real health benefits, real environmental benefits, and all generated by something as simple as making bicycles accessible for people. And because EY have converted these outcomes into economic value, we're not talking about anecdotes anymore or assumptions. We're not just saying cycling's cleaner, greener, healthier. We've actually got the evidence to back that up. So if we can just go on to the next slide now, Isfan. Looking into the future now, I think the most exciting finding is not where we're currently at, the 305 million point. It's where we could be tomorrow, and very realistically, the modelling shows that by 2030, we can be delivering 1 billion euros of societal returns. And that's driven by 4 factors, very simple factors as well. Increased growing demand, so basically more people getting on bikes. Increased supply, so more bike share schemes out there. Electrification of the fleets, so more electric bikes means longer distances travelled, so the ability to replace car journeys with bicycle journeys. And then the expansion into new cities and regions. Bike share is no longer confined to the capital cities in Europe. It's more and more is in the towns and cities, including my hometown of Leeds in the UK. So under this scenario, every euro invested in bike share now has got the potential to generate around 75% return when we're looking at the 2030 figures. So that's not a cost anymore. It's an investment that bike shares bring in, and it's an investment that keeps paying back year after year. So I appreciate this is a very quick high-level view of that ROI study. If you want to really get into the depths of the study, I've put out the QR code there. So please contact me, and I'm happy to provide a full copy of the study that goes into great detail on the methodology, the assumptions in economic modelling, and the findings behind those numbers. Thank you.
Where can people find this study, Nick? Because there are already questions going in there.
You're able to find it through the EIT Urban Mobility website. It's published on there in all languages, English, French, German, Spanish, I believe available, and some very helpful infographics on the site there. Again, if you can't find it, please just get in touch and we'll get a copy to you.
Great, fantastic.
Thank
and
you.
once again, what we do with this study is that we basically commission it, we publish it, and we hand it out especially to the European institutions so that they can start getting this data, this evidence into, turn it into legislation, basically, that is favorable to cities overall. Thank you, Nick, for the great overview. We'll get back to you. Now we have three great examples of companies here. First one is Lyft, Alessia. Lyft is probably one of the most successful companies in dog bike share, and has also paved the way for bike share growth, participating in public calls for bids. So Alessia, why do you at Lyft think that the bike share expert group is good for you?
Thank you, Christian, and thank you for the nice introduction. I believe for myself and for Lyft Urban Solution, the ECI membership is very valuable because the conversation that happen, here and with the other operators directly shapes the policy environment that we operate in. As few of you might know, we operate in different markets across North America, Latin America, and of course, Europe. And what cities decide about street space, infrastructure, investment, and also transit integration determines whether a bike sharing system is successful or not. So for us, being part of ECI, and specifically the bike sharing working group, means that we can contribute to these conversations around specifically space and infrastructure, and not just as a private company, a lobbying company, but it's very useful to us to build kind of shared values and knowledge across, again, private operators, cities, and industry advocates. And I think this is extremely true and important when we're talking about taking up space for bike sharing in a city, because we firmly believe it's fundamental for a system that works very well in a system and it's well designed. So when we look not only at our markets, but overall speaking at the highest performing bike sharing programs globally, physical space is really important, and it's one of those variables that really makes a difference. So, for example, well, of course, for us, docking infrastructure, but parking locations in general, bike lanes, protected corridor, and any type of signaling in the city really is a signal that the infrastructure for bike sharing in a city is there to stay. And it also changed the way how riders use the system and how much they rely on it for their day-to-day project tasks, for their first and last mile. And what we found out in different years in this industry is that often cities underestimate how much flexibility they have in terms of space and the space that they can actually allocate to bike sharing. In our case, for example, docking infrastructure has evolved, Now our stations can be configured, they can have more compact layouts, they can be split or wrapped around other urban infrastructure or even trees. And it actually improves in some cases, in some cities that we operate in, it kind of improves the intersections lines because they replace parked cars with a station. And I think last point, not least important, is that space and allocating space for bike sharing, it's what makes integration and transit integration real. We firmly believe that bike sharing needs to be part of the public transport system of a city. And this is possible only, again, when the infrastructures is placed to support it. We saw actually the return of investment study shows that up to 55% of share bike users combine their trip with another transport mode. And we see in North America, in our operated market, for example, that numbers, this data even goes up to 81% of riders that use bike share to connect with local public transport. So as Nick was mentioning before, those patterns, those results don't happen just by default, but there's a lot of work to be put in, and they really have to be designed. So yes, this is why we're part of ECI, and I think this is the case that we can make more effectively with this working group and this with the association in general.
Thank you, Alessia. Infrastructure. That's, yep, they're very good, and that is what we can help with at this group. Next up, I would love to introduce Camille from Coultra. You guys have been doing moped share for a long while, and you're very successful in that area in the Mediterranean, especially. And now you have entered the bike share space. Why are you here, Camille? Why are you in the expert group?
Thank you, Christian. Hi again, everybody. So I'm here because you invited me, basically, but also to comment a little bit on our experience and share the way we see the collaboration into what is ECI now. We joined CIE, I think, some 3 years ago. As you said, Coultra is originally a moped company. We do not only operate moped sharing services, because we have different kind of modalities. We also do rentings. It started like this a company a while ago. It's a Barcelona-based company. We operate now. We are not only Mediterranean anymore, because we are also present in the Benelux, for example, in Netherlands and Belgium through the Felix brand. But what we back then, in 3 years ago, what we were thinking is like this sector. It was important for us to make the bike part of the company, which was already existing, stronger. And the sector has been through a lot now over the last few years. I mean, I don't think there are many industries that have evolved so much from almost starting from scratch to reaching amazing peaks, and from time to time also hitting the wall. And we were thinking that we need standards now in this industry. Basically, we need to control the way we work. We need to define, we need to set, and we need to apply these standards over the different projects that we are all running. Otherwise, people, customers, territories, basically the cities that are trusting us to operate and to give these services to the citizens, they will say basta, no? They will say stop. We don't want to see this anymore in our cities. And this is what I think I've been finding in the group now. Great professional, besides the great people. It's something also that is important to highlight, that the atmosphere, the fact that we are sometimes partners, sometimes competitors, a bit of everything. But the atmospheres of the working groups are always very positive, and it's something that I think makes big part of the DNA of the group, and big part of its success also is that everybody is looking for the greater good. And yes, we need this. We need the standards. We need the quality. You know, we need to ensure that any kind of services that are developed are with a quality level that is high enough that everybody can be proud of it. The city, the operator, the technological partners, and that it's going to inspire the next territories. Those cities are taking some risk, inventing sometimes or reinventing some things, and it's super important that we deliver the right level of quality in those different services. So it's why we joined, and I really what we found, and most of the people who are working in this group, I could say that a lot of them now are friends, and there are still challenges to tackle. No, we have very different situations in different countries where we operate. We are present in Portugal, Spain, Italy, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany. The situation is so different from a country to another, and it's also inspiring. No, see the experience of one country, see how it could apply to another, etc. And we are sharing this all together within this group, and so very happy to be here. First webinar in June, Velocity next week, so it's starting very strongly again.
Appreciate it, Camille. I couldn't have explained it any better. So yes, this is a group of people who know each other and who have high standards as well in terms of the production and output that we want to get out of this group. Very good. Thank you, Camille. And over to Nextbike, which is arguably the company with the most amount of cities supplied today in terms of bike share. Would you agree with me, John?
Thanks a lot, Christian. Actually, yes, and that actually highlights why we are part of the group. In a way, as you've seen, the industry have been through a lot over the past few years. Not many years ago, bike share was just street furniture. I think this is not really, we should not forget that. And at some point in time, we started becoming public transit. But this is not was not something that everyone was for sure following. And it was a long path also for Nextbike and for the industry that was not organized in the past. So Nextbike is one of the pioneers in terms of bike sharing. Back in the days where there were not really apps, so everything was like Coinbase, or would you just call in to get your bike unlocked? And after years development and the time was passing by, we understood as well each other. That's why Nextbike is one of the founding members of the group, and also have been very engaged since the beginning. That to really consider and have a successful bike sharing scheme, you need to consider as part of the public transit. But what does it mean, public transit? Like at the end, people think, yeah, you need to have buses, you need to have trams, you need to have certain network in certain cities to be able to move and to transport people. But what is the bike playing a role there? And I think in Nextbike we saw it very early, and that's why it's part of our vision. We really were focusing a lot on integrating the systems into public transit. And we've seen one of the main levers, and it's probably the key lever to success, is the tariff integration. Of course, you can integrate infrastructure, the stations located, there will be multimodality, but if you don't have tariff integration, at the end, the users will not jump out that easily, even though there are cases that is still happening. But if you just can have the full integration of tariffs, that basically will allow you to pass by the systems and just change for tram to bus and then to bike from one to the other. But that has, of course, implications that the bike needs to be considered a public service. And I think that's the challenge that we have as an industry, that this was not a given. I think at some point it's now a given that we really consider it as a clear solution and a clear element to complement public transit in cities and regions. And as Christian was saying, we're over in 120 municipalities. So we are very diverse areas operating across Europe, from various big cities like Berlin or Warsaw until very, very small municipalities that have like 2,000 inhabitants, with very different realities and diversity in what they need in terms of the mobility, also goals. And I think this group, what help us is to define these KPIs, or how can you measure success, because you cannot compare the success of a metropolitan system to like a municipality system that has a utilization rate of 10, but also the financing and the tariff that is along with it. So I think that's why we consider this group very valuable in general, because we join this vision. And I think I can agree that everyone already now considers bike sharing, at least in the group, as part of the public transit. And this is a really valuable offer that can be provided to citizens. And of course, this is now a tool also for us to advocate for more resources, for more integration and for facilitating the movement and basically the life of our citizens across Europe.
Fantastic, John. Exactly. In this group, I think the benchmarking of cities versions 1 and 2 has been the place where we're setting the KPIs and sharing them with the world, basically. So stay tuned for version 3 that this group is already working on. So we hope to be able to publish it this year. But we just need to make it a good study with good data as well. Excellent. A little bit of housekeeping, also being conscious of time. At the bottom of your screens, you will be able to see that there is a chat, but there is also a Q&A section. It actually has a little 3 notification on it. So if you have some questions, feel free to just type them in there, and we'll try to answer as much as we can before the end of the webinar. But just keep them coming in. And before we move into the Q&A, which I would like to leave a little bit of time for, I would like to ask the panelists, headline, what is next in Bikeshare? I'd like to give Nick a little bit more time because I know that you have some good stuff to share. But for the rest of the panelists, I would like to keep this as a headline topic for what is next in Bikeshare, and then we move into the Q&A section. Nick, what is next in Bikeshare?
Thanks, Christian. Well, this is something that I am super excited about. We have a cycling ecosystem. It's not just Bikeshare. We're made up of bike manufacturers. We're made up of operators, component suppliers, transport authorities. We all want the same thing: more people riding bikes. More people riding bikes means, obviously, for industry, more sales. For the bike share operators, more revenue. For the authorities, more modal shift, delivering transport strategy. And what really excites me is how bike share and then a new form of bike share called social leasing will help drive the behavior change that we need to people then adopting bicycle ownership through perhaps corporate leasing programs or subscription programs or just outright ownership. So something that really I see as a magic bullet, is a catalyst for driving bicycle ownership, is something called social leasing. It is a longer term form of bike rental. It's something that has been developed in France following the automotive industry example. There are currently around 150,000 bikes in France already deployed on social leasing schemes, subsidized schemes where people get access to an electric bike, which then helps deliver the behavior change that you need to convert people into bicycle users, that then leads to the pathway to other forms of bicycle ownership. As already been mentioned, is the corporate leasing. People can take bikes on corporate leasing schemes. People can buy bikes outright. People can take bikes and bike subscription. But we've got to act as a funnel to get these people to that first behavior change initiative. Now, bike share might just give someone their first ride, and then their introduction to cycling. Social leasing is that real tool that helps deliver the behavior change programs. Happy to chat more about it, Christian, but appreciate we've probably a lot of questions that we need to answer. So I'm happy to hand over, and perhaps we have a social leasing webinar. We've got a social leasing subgroup where we can delve deeper into this in the future.
Coming to you very soon in a webinar near you. Exactly. So there will be a social leasing subgroup that is also taking form and shape. Thank you, Nick. Alessia, your headline for what is next in Bikeshare?
My headline for what is next. I don't think it's a new topic, but it's a really important topic, which is city investments in bike sharing. So I just link it with what I previously stated. Real investments in bike share means dedicated street space, CapEx investment that drives stronger riderships, model integrations, transit integration. So if bike sharing is not publicly funded, whatever the policy document says, that's not actually a priority for cities. So yes, investments.
Investments. That's actually, by the way, our topic for next week's workshop at Velo City.
Exactly.
It's titled Bike Share, Should It Be Profitable, and Do We Care? And we
We do
are,
care.
yeah, we do care. Maybe that's that. I mean, spoiler alert, that is what we're going to be talking about next week. So yeah, great. Thank you, Alessia. Camille, your headline for the next thing in Bike Share?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have good news for you guys. So last week in Barcelona, the mayor decided to cancel the private e-bike licenses that was given away. So it's we still have to educate, no? And it's like investment. It looks obvious, but it's not, and we still have to work on that, no? And the Barcelona case was very specific. The regulation was wrong with an unlimited number of operator, and the decision to cancel it strangely just 1 year before the election is also very wrong. So it's going to be keep on educating the market, and also show here in Spain that both public systems, which are very powerful, can co-live with private initiatives, especially in a city like Barcelona, which is so specific. No, I've seen that there was a question about that in the Q&A. Maybe we get back on it a little bit later.
Yeah, thank you, Camille. Good points. And John, the headline.
The headline. Well, I would say just three clear headlines, let's say, that we see for the future. One is the regionalization of schemes. So I think this is the future. So they are not urban anymore. We just consider transport in general more metropolitan, and how these more municipalities are wholly integrated, bike sharing along with it. Fleet diversity will be the second one. We just don't talk about like pedal bikes, e-bikes. We are now talking about cargo bikes, like tricycles, like other special vehicles that are adapted to the needs of our population. And the last but not least, I think the social leasing is definitely something that we see with a lot of potential in the market, especially in the impact that can have to have a model share in people really owning a bike in the future. So this conversion rate is something that bike share is really not capable of, at least at the level that has been proven in France. So it's something that we see also with excitement overall in the industry as a good complement, maybe a second stage after the bike share has helped you to, deliver this bike movement, this first critical mass. Then you are getting into the moment that it will also solve another problem that maybe bike share cannot solve.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Right. And now the best part of the webinar has arrived, which is when we let the audience take over. And we have some very good questions already lined up. So I'd love to address them after Paul has said something. You have your hand raised, Paul?
I wanted to also have a shot at what's next for bike share.
Go for it.
More European-made bikes.
More European-made bikes. Amen. Very good. With that said, shall we start with a question from Sebastian, old friend of the group? I think this one is for you, Paul, now that you're at it. How does ECI use this study for advocating for bike share currently, and how does it resonate with politicians and relevant officers across the different European DGs?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for that. So, we launched the bike share study at our summit last year. It was a key part of that event. That got us started in the process. In many of our meetings with MEPs, a lot of which are building relationship meeting, it's extremely useful for that. Bike share is something that people have experienced. It's something that they can relate to. If you look at our biggest proponent in the parliament, Francois Calfon, you'll check out his Instagram feed. You'll find him on bike share bikes, as well in the discussion on Accelerate EU. We know that initially bikes were not part of that communication, but it was DG Klima which really made the case for bikes to be in there and bike share to be in there. And we had been engaging with them with the study as well. There's definitely more that we can do, but this is exactly the type of material that politicians are looking for. I would say it's an example to some of our other groups within the association. So there's a lot more to do, but it has been quite useful so far.
Great, appreciate it, Paul. Circling back to the e-bike ban, or floating e-bike ban in Barcelona that Camille brought up, there was actually a direct question towards this. I would also like to add that before I pass the floor to Camille, that Barcelona has not happened completely alone. It's actually followed up by, well, it was first done in Madrid. It has also been done in Prague, Czech Republic. Now it's being done in Barcelona. So the question that came in, Camille, was, will these decisions have wider effects, do you think?
At European level, really, I don't believe so. As I said before, the Spanish market is really having a hard time combining both private and public initiatives. We can always talk about Paris now, where the demand is so high and where Velib and private players are combining quite well with incredible numbers, but I think it's still a very specific case. The thing is that it has been, as I said, it's wrong since the beginning. The regulation was wrong. 7 players with 500 e-bike fleet in a city like Barcelona. You cannot make a brand. I think that the Fluctuo article from today was describing it quite well. You cannot give good service. You don't have enough resources to manage it properly. So the point is that if the regulation is wrong, of course, the service doesn't work greatly. But in general, in the Spanish market, I would say this decision is a bit the final nail in the coffin of the private e-bike share initiatives. The only major city that is keeping such a service right now is Sevilla. The case of Barcelona, we are more or less at the end of the contract of the bicycling. So we are with a system that is getting a little bit more under pressure, more maintenance. The status of the system has been suffering for a very high usage. So there was a way to make it combining perfectly. Also, because the bicycling is reserved to residents in Barcelona, I think we don't have so many cases where we have an exclusive usage for locals. So it doesn't work greatly like this. So redo it. Think about the new regulations. There are so many options that has been showing that it was working, but the decision of banning it is, I think, directly linked to the municipal election, the local context. The slogan of the mayor of Barcelona is also about order in the streets, and I think it was an easy decision somehow. To back his future electoral campaign. So I don't think it's gonna have more effect than that, and I hope that in the near future we'll sit down again, really discuss about the new regulation and find a solution to make both work. Or the new bicycling will have to probably propose services also for more short-term usage. The future contract probably by the 2-3 years from now, it will have to be able to be used by people just visiting the city typically. Otherwise, you just push them to the taxi, you push them to the public transport, which is already quite saturated. So I don't think the city can live without an option like that.
I completely agree. If there's no follow-ups, there was a question coming in which asked about the Social Climate Fund and if there are funding opportunities for cities willing to launch a bike share scheme beyond the Social Climate Fund. I'd like to just open the floor on this question. I think
I can
there is.
that.
Alessia, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think I can answer that. There's a few, yes. Of course, the Social Climate Funds, it's one of the most important and most known. But a lot of our Spanish cities, for example, use the next generation, the EU Next Generation funds. Even our Romanian cities, we launched 8 cities in Romanian with our local operator through the EU Next Generation funds. Then there's a few different ones. I think one it's called Recovery and Resilience Funds. There is Horizon Europe. There is the Cohesion Fund. There's a lot, and in our markets have been proven to be very successful. There's some countries that don't know how to get those funds. Still very either they don't have the possibility to, or they don't want to. So there's countries they don't know where to start with, and others countries like again Romania and Spain that have been proven. I mean, it has been great. And Romania, I think they funded almost 97 or 98% of their system through public funding.
And that's why we helped them out, right? To
Correct.
let them know that this exists. Nick?
And just to add on to that, in the terms of the social leasing, we've seen the new Brussels RFI that's out, and they are using social climate monies to fund their social leasing by contract there. But other cities, municipalities are looking at pilot projects because the social leasing projects are so much quicker and easier to deploy and need less capital. They can find pilot project monies. There's some examples in the UK of that, not necessarily needing to go to the levels that you might need to get from a social climate fund.
Appreciate it, Nick.
Okay.
There's a question in from Richard Bunning who asks, what cities are doing best in terms of full integration of bike sharing to public transport? I think that is right up our alley, isn't it, John? Who would like to take this question?
I would love to. So I think it's our normal, let's say, next bike process for integration in public transit always have 4 pillars. So just a basic standard. So one is the tariffs. So making sure that if there's a public monthly subscription, annual subscription, that you have also the bike share integrated with it. The second one is the infrastructure, making sure that the hubs are located where public transport hubs are located as well, and that they are complementing to have this hub and spoke logic, basically the bike sharing working as spokes to fit in the main public transport hubs. You have also the system integrations where you have all APIs, mass integrations, allowing like ticketing and special systems. And something that we consider very valuable is the branding. Once you have the bike share also branded as a public transit, people just see it as one system. So you just jump from the bus and go to your bike, and it's basically the same system. I think one of more successful systems in Nextbike is Cologne, where basically we have all these 4 full integrated, and we have over 80% of the trips done by people that are public transport subscribers. There are people that are just going from the tram to take the bike and really using it as it was part of their journey. And the whole branding, the whole ecosystem is just one other element, I think, of the public transit. So I would say that would be the goal. I think in certain countries it's not that easy, especially the tariff integration, because you have different entities that are responsible, and that's what makes it very hard. But actually, technically, it's rather easy to do. So the problem is more the administrative hurdle that you have of all the different agencies that are responsible of this or that, in order to make sure that this is defined and how the process is defined on the administrative level. Once you have that done, I think that the bike share should be very successful.
Thank you, John. Alessio, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, we have
Comment
1
on-
minute left, but yeah, I agree, of course, with what John just said. We have at Lift Urban Solutions, we have, I think, 3, we have many, but 3 very good examples are, of course, Madrid. It's the BCMAD system is integrated directly with EMT Madrid. They're the local operator, and they operate the transit. It's the transit agency that operates buses, tramway, and bike sharing as well. We have a very peculiar one in Texas, Fort Worth in the outskirts of Dallas. They did the same thing as Madrid, and of course Barcelona with the integration of the SMO app. these are very great examples at Lift Urban Solution.
Perfect. Thank you, Alessia. There are some other great questions that are in the Q&A that we would have loved to have time to answer, but unfortunately we have reached the end of the webinar. But thank you. What I think we can take away from this meeting is that this group is the place where all these discussions take place. This is the forum where you can talk about whether we would like to push for public funding. Are there other innovative ways of financing bike share, integration, public space? So this is your place to do that. Send a note to Paul or to Istvan or any of us here for that matter in order to join, get an ECI membership and join the expert group. We're growing every day. And our next meetup will be in Rimini, Italy, next week on Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. We'll have a panel moderated by our very own Nick. It's called, once again, Bike Share, Should It Be Profitable and Do We Care? So we're just bringing the controversy right into the center stage of Rimini. So do join us, come in, participate, be part of the debate. And other than that, we're going into the summer break, and this group will probably meet by the end tail of the summer. So make sure to join the group before that in order to catch up and join the wave as soon as possible. I'd like to thank you all for your participation today. I hope it was useful, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Christian.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.